The first time I saw the fence, I thought I was having some kind of stress-induced hallucination. I'd been up since 4 a.m. tending to my horses, mucking out stalls, and checking on my pregnant mare. The Texas sun was already beating down mercilessly by 7, turning the dirt roads into shimmering ribbons of heat. But there it was, a brand new 8-foot privacy fence stretching across what used to be the open access road to my ranch. My ranch. The one my grandfather built with his own hands in 1962. I sat in my dusty Ford F-250, engine idling, staring at the wooden monstrosity blocking my path like some kind of suburban Berlin Wall. A shiny new padlock gleamed in the sunlight, mocking me with its chrome finish. What in the actual hell? I muttered, throwing the truck into park and killing the engine. My name is Daniel Cooper, and I've lived on this 40-acre ranch my entire 38 years of life. 3 years ago, some hotshot developer from California bought the land next to mine and built Meadowbrook Springs, a cookie-cutter HOA neighborhood with houses so close together you could hear your neighbor's television through the walls. 200 identical houses with identical beige siding and identical small yards. I'd watched them go up with mild amusement, never thinking their suburban nightmare would bleed into my world. I was dead wrong. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number. Richard Pemberton, the HOA president. A former insurance adjuster from Phoenix who'd retired here 6 months ago and immediately made it his life's mission to enforce every petty rule imaginable. He answered on the third ring, his voice dripping with false cheerfulness that made my skin crawl. Daniel, good morning. I was wondering when you'd notice our little improvement project. Improvement? Richard, there's a fence blocking the only road to my property. The road I've been using for 38 years. You want to explain that? Well, actually, that road runs through HOA property now. We had a surveyor come out last month. Cost us $3,000, very thorough. And technically that access road is on our land. Has been all along, apparently. We've decided to make it a private drive for Meadowbrook Springs residents only. Security purposes, you understand. My grip tightened on the phone until my knuckles went white. That road has been there for 60 years. My grandfather built it. My father maintained it. I've driven it every single day of my life. I understand this is frustrating, Daniel, I really do. But the survey doesn't lie. The property lines are what they are. He paused, and I could practically hear the smirk in his voice. The good news is we're willing to grant you access, for a small monthly fee. Say $500. Plus, you'll need to follow our community standards. No livestock trailers before 9 a.m., no trucks with mud on them, and definitely no early morning noise that might disturb our residents. Some of them are very sensitive to. Actually laughed. The sound came out harsh and bitter. Richard, I run a working ranch. Everything you just listed is literally my daily routine. I move cattle at dawn. My trucks are always dirty. This is a farm, not a golf course. Then perhaps it's time to modernize your operation, Daniel. Join the 21st century. Or, he let the pause hang there like a threat. Find another access point. I'm sure there's a way around if you look hard enough. The line went dead. I sat there in my truck, blood boiling, hands shaking with anger, looking at that fence. Beyond it, I could see my ranch. My horses grazing in the far pasture. My barn with the red paint my dad and I had applied together when I was 16, the windmill spinning lazily in the breeze. All of it suddenly held hostage by a man who'd moved here half a year ago and thought cargo shorts and flip-flops were appropriate attire for running a meeting. That's when my eyes drifted to the property line on my eastern border. Old Thomas Henderson's place. He'd passed away 2 months ago at the age of 89, and the land had been sitting empty ever since. 10 acres with an old metal gate that connected directly to my ranch. More importantly, that gate opened onto County Road 47, a public road. An idea began forming in my mind. A beautiful, perfect idea. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in a law office in Dallas, across from Thomas Henderson's daughter, Linda Reynolds. She was a corporate attorney, sharp-eyed and professional, studying me over her reading glasses. "So you want to buy my father's property?" she asked, tapping her pen against a legal pad. The offer came as a surprise, Mr. Cooper. We haven't even listed it yet. I do. I'll pay 20% above market value. Cash offer. We can close in 30 days. Her eyebrows rose sharply. That's extremely generous. May I ask why the urgency? I explained the entire situation with Richard and the HOA. The fence, the demands, the monthly fee, the impossible restrictions. By the time I finished, she was grinning like a cat who'd found a mouse. My father absolutely despised HOAs, she said, leaning back in her chair. He used to go on these long rants at Sunday dinners about how they were ruining the character of rural Texas. Turning cowboys into suburbanites, he'd say. I think he'd absolutely love what you're planning. She extended her hand across the desk. You've got yourself a deal, Mr. Cooper. Let's make this happen fast. The closing took exactly 4 weeks. 4 weeks of driving an hour out of my way every single morning and evening to access my ranch from the back county road. 4 weeks of Richard calling me at increasingly aggressive intervals, demanding that I pay the access fee, and threatening legal action. 4 weeks of planning exactly what I was going to do, consulting with lawyers, checking county records, and preparing my revenge. When the title finally transferred and that 10 acres became legally mine, I didn't waste a single minute. I called Bronson Fencing Company that very afternoon. I need a fence, I told the owner, a gruff man named Pete. 8 feet tall, solid wood privacy fence, running along the entire property line between my newly acquired land and Meadowbrook Springs. And I need it done in 1 week. Pete whistled low. That's a serious rush job, Mr. Cooper. We're talking overtime, extra crew. I'll pay double your normal rate. Whatever it takes. Then consider it done. The construction started on a Monday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, Richard showed up at my ranch, driving his pristine white Lexus SUV that had probably never seen a dirt road before last week. He climbed out, red-faced and sputtering like a teakettle about to explode. What do you think you're doing, Cooper? I was leaning against my truck, arms crossed, watching the fence crew work. The sound of nail guns echoed across the property. Building a fence, Richard. On my property. Perfectly legal. This is outrageous. He was so angry he couldn't form complete sentences. His face had gone from red to an alarming shade of purple. You're blocking the view from our neighborhood. Our residents paid good money for their homes. Actually, Richard, I'm exercising my property rights. The exact same property rights you exercised when you built that fence across my access road. Funny how that works, isn't it? That's completely different. How? Explain to me how it's different. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again like a fish gasping for air. No words came out. Finally he changed tactics. We'll sue. This fence violates county ordinances. I'll have my lawyer. I pulled out a thick folder from my truck cab and waved it at him. Already checked. Spent 2 days at the county office going through every regulation. I'm completely within my rights. Fence is on my property line, correct height, proper setback, all permits filed and approved. Everything's perfectly legal. I smiled slowly. Unlike that lock you put on a road that, according to my lawyer, might actually be a historical easement. We're looking into that, by the way. His face went from purple to white. You can't. This is harassment. I believe the exact phrase you used was, find another access point. Well, Richard, I found one. Actually, I bought one. I gestured toward the old Henderson gate, which I'd already reinforced with new posts and fitted with a commercial-grade lock. See that? That's my private gate now. The only access point to this entire section of County Road 47 for about 5 miles in either direction. So what? Richard snapped, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. So your HO needs this road, Richard. Did you know that? I did some research. Your community's secondary emergency access route, the one required by county fire code, runs right through here. Your precious Meadowbrook Springs only has one main entrance on Highway 89. If there's ever a fire, an evacuation, a medical emergency where that main road is blocked, those fire trucks and ambulances need this gate. I jangled my key ring. And I have the only key. The color drained from his face completely. He looked like he might actually faint. You wouldn't. That's endangering lives. I shrugged casually. Wouldn't what? Keep my private gate locked. Richard, I'm just exercising my property rights. Protecting my investment. Same thing you told me. Maybe you should modernize your emergency planning. Join the 21st century. 2 days later, the HOA's lawyer called. Then the county fire marshal. Then the county commissioner. Then, finally, Richard himself. His voice completely defeated. What do you want, Cooper? He asked quietly. First, that fence across my original access road comes down. Today. By sunset. Second, you pay for all my damages, my time, my gas, my legal fees, everything. I'm billing you for every extra mile I drove. Third, you sign a permanent easement document guaranteeing my access to my ranch, and we file it with the county so this never happens again. Silence on the other end. Then, and what about your gate? The emergency access. I pretended to think about it, letting him sweat. Tell you what, Richard. I'll give the fire department a key. Just them. If your residents ever need emergency access, they can call 911, and the fire department will handle it. But for general use, my gate stays locked. Private property. That's actually reasonable, he admitted, sounding shocked. I know. Because unlike you, Richard, I'm not trying to bully my neighbors or play power games. I just want to run my ranch in peace. That's all I've ever wanted. The fence came down the next morning at dawn. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand, as the same crew that built it tore it apart board by board. Richard supervised, standing in the heat looking like he'd swallowed a jar of nails. When they finished, he walked slowly over to where I stood on my porch. You know, he said, unable to meet my eyes, you could have just paid the access fee. Made everyone's life easier. And you could have just been a decent neighbor, Richard. Respected the people who were here before you. Understood that not everyone wants to live in your perfect little suburban bubble. I sipped my coffee. Funny how treating people with basic respect would have saved everyone a lot of trouble. He opened his mouth, closed it, then turned and walked back to his Lexus without another word. That weekend, I was feeding my horses their evening hay when I noticed a woman standing by the property line. She looked to be in her mid-60s, wearing gardening gloves and a sun hat. "Can I help you, ma'am?" called out, walking over. "I'm Patricia Chen. I live 4 houses down from the gate." She smiled warmly. "I just wanted to come by personally and say, thank you. Thank you so much." "For what?" "For standing up to Richard Pemberton. He's been absolutely terrorizing this neighborhood since he became HOA president 8 months ago. Fines for everything. Wrong color mailbox, grass a 1/4 inch too long, grass too short, cars parked in driveways overnight, Christmas decorations up 1 day past his arbitrary deadline." Her smile widened. "Watching him squirm this past week, watching him lose, has been the absolute highlight of my year. My husband and I have been cheering for you." I laughed, feeling genuinely good for the first time in weeks. "Happy to help, Mrs. Chen. Please call me Patricia. And you should know there's an HOA election coming up in 3 months. I'm running for president. After what you did, half the neighborhood wants Richard gone. We're taking our community back." 3 months later, Richard Pemberton was voted out in a landslide. Patricia Chen became the new HOA president with 78% of the vote. Her first official act was to revoke half of Richard's ridiculous rules and reduce the fines by 60%. Her second act was to formally apologize to me on behalf of the HOA and offer to purchase a shared emergency access easement through my gate, for $1 per year. I accepted with a handshake. As for Richard, last I heard he moved to Arizona. Probably to terrorize some other HOA, though I like to think maybe, just maybe, he learned something about respecting other people. Me. I'm still on my ranch, same as always. My horses are happy and healthy, my access road is clear and open, and every single morning when I drive through my gate, the one I own with the only key in my pocket, I think about my grandfather and smile. He always said the best revenge in life is simply living well and staying true to yourself. But having a little leverage doesn't hurt either.